So one of the other things, and this was going to be one of my rants, was Adam Jahn. I just felt like there's just not enough to pick on the guy to have it be my rant. Um, but really unimpressed with any sort of impact on the game. And I know that Nashville had some more stout guys in the back to match up with him and his physicality, which is one thing. It doesn't matter. Like I want to see the smile wiped off his face, and he, not just be happy that he's playing in the MLS and not the USL. He needs to get mean and use that physicality to do something. And I just feel like, that maybe Cubo or somebody should have come on earlier, because, it was clear early on he was really just not making any sort of difference with his physicality and winning balls. And he even got pushed over in the corner, which was a foul, yes. But, he's not selling it. He's not getting it done.
But his movement is non-existent. I mean,
yeah,
he looks to me like a product of really bad coaching in America, right?
yeah,
Because he is strong. He's on the ball. He gets, in many ways, in some respects, he was much better served in the De Boer system where we were on the ball all the time, very static in the box, and we ended up forcing a lot of crosses and that kind of thing, and maybe he might have bailed us out a few times by scoring some of those goals because he can clearly finish and he's physical in the box. But in the middle of the park, his movement is non-existent, and so we might as well stick a cone out there, right? He's just doing nothing for us.
yeah.
And Cubo, like, to me, I haven't seen as much. I saw a little bit of him when he was in MLS previously. But he's also a physical player. He's not quite as big as Jahn, but he plays very physically, right? And yet his movement is way better than Jahn. So
Right.
he is going to be a huge upgrade.
Yeah. So let's kind of work back then. The I guess star of the show in terms of goals is PT. But I don't know where if I said this on Twitter or what, but I think he did two things right all night, and that was those two goals, which were great goals. Especially the first one, I thought PT did a really nice job of putting in the work to get that into the net. I mean, he did a great job of taking it down, staying strong on the ball, and really put on a fantastic move there on the end to cut it and slot it in with his left foot. So I thought that first goal was really all PT in terms of getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, supposedly Stephen Glass is, unleashed PD. If you follow our Twitter account, the greatest tweet, in my
Yeah.
opinion, in Atlanta United history is about PD. It says, in reference to Harry Potter, Master has given me a new pair of socks. PD is free.
So I had to ask my
But
wife what that meant, but I get it now. But nice
it's hilarious.
retweet.
It was
Yeah, I thought
absolutely
that's pretty
hilarious.
funny.
And
Um,
the Twitter person who sent it out, I can't remember her name, but she said that her husband didn't think it was funny, but your husband's wrong. That was very funny. But the one thing you would say is, so the way he has it, so he's clearly, Stephen Glass has made it a little bit asymmetrical, if you will. Bello is much more forward, which means that, and we're covering a little bit in behind him, so we're not so vulnerable. And that means that PD can stay a little bit farther forward and has supposedly a little more freedom. And if you have to give Stephen Glass credit for something, you would say that, well, because he's a little bit further forward than he was under De Boer, who insisted that everybody be part of the system, that he was more available to make those two great plays.
yeah.
Whether that truly bears out over a long term, I don't know, but you got to give him some credit.
Yeah, and the other, I mean, my point about those being the only two things, right? I felt like there was a few balls he made some nice passes in the space to people, so I don't want to say those are the only two, but he again did not look like a player that could ever play in Europe the way he was fumbling about with trying to do too much and almost tripping over the ball at times. Like
I don't know. He looks to me like a player in La Liga. There's a number of players who, you know, the way La Liga plays, it's a little bit slower. You're allowed to, fade in and out of games so you can pop up for a moment of brilliance and change the match, and you're a hero. So
yeah.
He looks that kind of player. I mean, and I'm a fan of PD's. I think he's great.
Yeah, there's some things he does that absolutely drive me crazy. And again, that goes, I've talked about that on other podcasts. We don't need to rehash it. But the second goal, a fantastic finish again. But it's what a great player should have done when that ball gets laid on a plate like that, in my opinion. And it was very nice. It was near post, upper left. Maybe a couple different places he could put that, but hey, great finish. But again, I would expect that from a player of his quality.
Yeah, it's a sensational finish. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
it was
the two
a
goals
cracker.
are world-class goals. So all credit to him.
All right. Thanks for listening. If anybody actually made it this far in the podcast, we'd love to hear your feedback on Twitter at ATL On Fire. And tell your friends to subscribe. We are on iTunes, Google Play, and really any sort of podcast platform that you're on.